I'd like to introduce to you my father, my hero, and my friend, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Marino.
He's my favorite football player of all time, and I grew up in Miami watching him every Sunday.
Number 13. I had a feeling I might get a little reaction.
As a highly recruited high school quarterback, Dan Marino could have played anywhere. But for this neighborhood hero from Oakland, his path of glory began right at home. In his 4 years, Marino grew from a 17-year-old freshman whose first pass was intercepted to an All-American whose quick release and ballistic arm helped make him the most productive passer in Pittsburgh history. But Marino possessed more than just physical ability. He approached the game with a cool confidence that would help rally his team in tight games.
Danny was a kind of a cocky guy, and that kind of rubbed off on you as an offensive player when you could look into the quarterback's eyes and you could see the confidence in that cocky type of fashion, and you know that, hey, we're going to get it done no matter what it takes.
You have to have a lot of confidence to play that position. You can't go out and throw 2 or 3 interceptions and think that you're not going to play anymore. And then you know that's why Coach Sherrill had so much faith in Dan. When he would throw an interception, he wouldn't say anything to him because the next pass might be a touchdown. And that's the confidence that Dan has. You know, he never let anything get him down, and we were always in the game till the last minute, just like in the Sugar Bowl.
The 1982 Sugar Bowl pitted the 10-1 Panthers against the highly ranked Georgia Bulldogs. With just seconds remaining in the game, Pitt trailed by 3. It was 4th down, and Jackie Sherrill was thinking field goal.
Called timeout to talk about it, called Danny over, and Danny sat there and looked me in the eye, giving him what my thoughts were, and he said, "Coach, I'm not here to tie the ball game. We didn't come here to tie the ball game." I knew right then that he would get it done.
It is 4th down for Pitt.
Crazy thing about it was it's 4th and 5, and they tried to blitz, and they left one-on-one coverage with John Brown going straight down the middle of the field, and that was kind of a mistake.
4th and 4.5. Could be the last play for him. Marino goes deep. Brown, touchdown! John Brown makes a great catch with 35 seconds to play.
The dramatic Sugar Bowl victory was the climax of 3 years of Pitt football supremacy. 3 consecutive 11-1 seasons, 3 triumphant bowl appearances, and an overall record of 33-3 elevated Pitt firmly into the elite of college football.
I've heard some people say they're interested in Marino. He would be a reclamation project, which Al thrives on.
The Dolphins waited 3 hours, but they were about to find the face of their franchise.
Miami Dolphins, first round selection. The Dolphins select quarterback Dan Marino of Pittsburgh.
That was Commissioner Pete Rozelle as he made the announcement for the selection of Danny Marino.
I don't understand it. Number one, I don't know who is going to work with him down there. Where is the great quarterback coaching genius of the offense? I know Arnsparger is a great defensive coach. I don't see where he's going to get this great coaching that's going to overcome the problems he's had. I mean, strictly that long-range projection down the line, and I think they need help in other directions. Maybe they felt that what they wanted wasn't there and they couldn't get that help, but I really don't understand.
You wouldn't label him as a classic Don Shula kind of quarterback either.
No, that's true.
The I-Team tracked down audio, what was said about Dan Marino on draft day, and It wasn't all positive.
All right, play that two-a-days.
That was Commissioner Pete Rozelle just about a minute and a half ago as he made the selection announcement for the selection of Danny Marino.
I can understand it. Number one, I don't know who is going to work with him down there. Where is the great quarterback coaching genius on the offense? I know Arnsparger was a great defensive coach. I don't see where he's going to get this great coaching that's going to overcome the problems he's had.
Paul Zimmerman, yeah. Draft coverage, and Paul spent a lot of time covering the NFL.
Paul's a nice guy.
Yeah. Didn't think you were...
I mean, you're going to get different opinions from different people. I mean, I felt like I was one of the best players in the draft. That's just how you feel. That's how I felt. But, obviously a lot of people didn't feel that way. But I'm glad Don Shula felt that way.
We had no idea of taking a quarterback. We'd been to the Super Bowl with David Woodley as our quarterback. But when it looked like Dan might slide down to us, that's when we started to really think about changing our direction.
Shula was a perfect coach for him because he knew exactly how to get the most out of Dan.
For him to be passed up the way that he was passed up in that first round, and knowing Dan and the pride that he had and his ability to throw the football, that had to be crushing to him.
In the quarterback-rich draft of 1983, Marino plummeted to the 27th pick.
How many teams do you think were kicking themselves after one season going, I can't believe we let Dan Marino fall that far in the draft?
I thought I would go a little earlier in the draft, but I didn't, and I had an opportunity to be drafted by Miami and a very good football team, and at least I can go down and work on my talent a little bit.
I said to myself that day, I said, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life and just go down there and prove something.
When you talk about draft mistakes, there's a long line of people who passed on Dan Marino that probably still regret it to this day.
The sixth quarterback taken in the first round of the 1983 draft.
5 quarterbacks were taken before he was selected by Miami, and I'm sure those 5 teams are having second thoughts about their decision.
You look at it and you say, yeah, well, they made a mistake. But it's not something that I, focused on that much.
Dan Marino may have been the last quarterback selected in the first round of the 83 draft. But armed with a quick release and a warrior mentality, it didn't take long for number 13 to move to the top of the class.
It is hard to imagine anybody burst onto the scene in more spectacular fashion than Dan Marino.
Let's get a drive going, man. Let's get a drive going and score some damn points.
I've never been around anybody that enjoyed competing as much as Dan enjoyed competing. Had to be certainly one of the greatest competitors that's ever played the game.
Miami Dolphins, first round selection. Quarterback, Dan Marino of Pittsburgh.
The Dolphins were last in the league in passing and 23rd in scoring. Don Shula was compelled to make a change. His forces needed a shot in the arm. Shula's decision, go with a rookie.
During Marino's 1983 rookie season, the only thing flashier than his smile was his performance.
Suddenly, at 22 years of age, Dan Marino was asked to bear the responsibility of reviving the dormant Miami offense.
The legend of Dan Marino is as big as the game itself. Arriving on the scene in 1983,
from the day he took over, you could see there was something special.
Marino in the shotgun. He goes deep downfield. It is caught by Duper. He's going to go. Marino back to throw. He will fire it down the far side. Caught by Duper at the 50. Down to the 40. He may go. 25, 20. Duper scores. Marino drops the throw. Has time. Going deep up the sideline. Man down. Did it. 30, 25, 20. Duper didn't have a touching. Touchdown.
When you saw Marino and how well he played, you just knew you were watching the beginning of something really special.
He showed hints of greatness by throwing 20 touchdown passes in 11 games to lead Miami to the playoffs.
Marino would lead the AFC in passing and his team to a division title, all while changing the way his Hall of Fame coach approached offense.
But you knew the way Marino performed that things had changed. Shula changed. The Dolphins with Woodley were not a throwing team.
You were ahead of your time.
Thank you.
Just from a pure quarterbacking standpoint, if you were to draw the prototype, it's probably Dan Marino. He's what you want a quarterback to look and function like.
Marino Deep drop, throwing deep upfield, down the near side, man open, touchdown!
Hot touch!
Almost every man seemed open in 1984.
The following season, Marino elevated his game to unprecedented heights.
Marino throwing deep upfield, down the near side, man open, touchdown! Marino back to throw, got a man down there, he's got a touchdown! Oh, oh, oh!
Dan Marino was the 6th quarterback selected in the 1983 NFL Draft. In only his second year, he shattered the single-season records for passing yards and touchdowns, and he led the Dolphins to Super Bowl 19.
Marino destroyed the record books in his second year. He lit up the Miami sky for 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns, the greatest season ever for an NFL quarterback. Marino obliterated the previous record for touchdown passes in a season, which was 36, by throwing for 48 touchdowns, a record that stood for 20 years.
If you had Dallas's offensive line this year at your age, how many touchdown passes could you throw?
Oh, 60 at least.
Danny Marino! Here's Marino, wide open field, throws for a touchdown, and there's number 37 on the season, breaks the all-time NFL record.
Marino had already set the touchdown record. In that win over the Cowboys, he became the youngest quarterback to ever win 14 starts. And a couple of weeks later, the first to take his team to the Super Bowl in only his second year.
The best thing that year was the fact that we didn't know we were actually doing it. You know, we went out just firing the ball around and having fun and just trying to win games.
Touchdown! 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 Yes!
The 1984 AFC Championship game, Marino passed for 421 yards and threw for 4 touchdowns in a 45-28 win over the Steelers that earned the Dolphins a trip to the Super Bowl.
His hometown team got a first-hand look at what could have been. Steelers coach Chuck Noll never again made it as close to the Super Bowl.
The thing that I'm afraid of, when it's my time to go to the pearly gates, you know, I'm going to go up there and Dad's going to be waiting for me to say, you should have taken Marino.
Here's the snap. Marino drops the throw. They're in on him. Here's the pass up the middle. It is caught and held on to Dan Marino. Now has just broken Dan Fouts' all-time career passing record for a single season. Marino will be given the football.
Someone had to be able to move the offense to put the points on the board, and fortunately I've had some success and we've been able to score some points and win some games.
Earned Marino the Most Valuable Player Award.
You talk about championship courage. You talk about a will to win. A flame burns inside that man, Dan Marino.
He was great instantly. He stepped on the field great.
In 1984, Marino became the first player ever to pass for over 5,000 yards in a single season, finishing with an astounding 5,084 yards.
He was probably the best young quarterback we've ever seen.
A lot of great things happened to me early as I was a young player.
Perfectly thrown pass by Dan Marino. Touchdown, Miami.
Marino's touchdown passes kept rolling up. He tossed at least 2 every game over the first 10 weeks. Now, no player had ever thrown for 4,000 yards in his second year. Marino cruised past that in Week 14. That same week, he buried another record.
And his 1984 season is probably the best ever.
It's unbelievable to think that he was throwing for 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns in 1984.
84 season.
Yeah,
given the rules and given the way they played back then, I still think that's the greatest quarterback season in the history. Now, they've thrown for more touchdowns. There have been a lot of players throw for more yards. But given when he did it and what the complications, because back then, They hit the quarterback. There was nothing off limits to the quarterback. There was nothing off limits to the receivers. They could hold. They could throw you down. And to throw for 5,000 yards in the 80s when no one had ever been close to that, I still think that's the greatest season for our quarterback.
I'm going to come on this show more often. You guys are really good for my ego.
Don't ever give me that. Prescott may very well be big time. I'm telling you right now, I don't give a damn. I will project because this is his rookie. He will not be what we saw from Marino in year 2.
Marino's 1984 season is arguably the greatest offensive campaign ever. 14-2. The first quarterback to pass for 5,000 yards. And that record had stood for 27 years. and 48 touchdowns. That's just unreal.
The game you played on a Monday night against arguably the greatest defense ever, at least the hottest defense, the 85 Bears.
Yep, amazing.
Monday night, and again, it was at your place in Miami, but you tore them up pretty good.
That place was rocking. And the fact that, we could hold on to our Miami Dolphins, undefeated season that night kind of got the fans really riled up. But that defense was incredible. You think about the players they had with Richard Dent and Singletary and Dorison and, Hampton and, all those guys. Otis Wilson, amazing players. So
you got protected pretty well.
We had guys outside, Duper and Clayton, not more. We matched up well against them. And our offensive line was good enough to give me a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So, that's why we were so good in that game.
The night that I enjoyed the most was the Bears game in '85. The thing that made that game so special was the fact that it was a Monday night game. The Bears were undefeated. They looked like nobody was going to beat them. And we had 30 points in the first half of that game. And it was just such a joy watching from the sideline. Just the greatest first half of football that I've ever been around.
I remember so many games. I remember 1985 Monday Night Football at the Orange Bowl when they beat the undefeated Chicago Bears on a Monday night. I think he threw for like 400 yards.
Who can forget his performance in the Orange Bowl on a Monday night in 1985 against the Chicago Bears? The only game the Bears would lose all year.
3rd and 19. Matt Moore. Marino. Cooper.
When you were little, did you have any kind of practice that you would do? You go back to the old pictures. We have a Sammy Baugh throwing through a tire. Did you ever throw at anything when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah. We had a city bus.
Long from the shotgun. Marino. Cooper.
Did the guy ever stop and get out and yell at you for that?
Yeah, sometimes they...
Well, first of all, did you hit the bus?
Yeah, I'm good enough to hit the bus.
3rd down and 7. Marino. Clayton. Matt Moore is wide open.
You were before your time, in my opinion. The offense, your style.
Well, what we did, kind of no huddle. Dan Fouts was doing some of that, but they had, we did some no huddle. We did some spread offense when they weren't doing it as much. Jim Kelly was doing a lot of that too. When he came to the Bills and the K-gun offense, whatever it was called. But we were a style because of the personnel we had. We threw it a bunch, and a lot of teams weren't doing it then.
14 regular season games last week. He already has one to Keith Jackson, Mark Clayton, and he's now
A force this year. To the sidelines. Catch by Duper, and Duper scores.
Would you help us with just one of your famous calls and a throw to a throw to McLevin?
Yes. Yeah.
You will.
So what famous call you want, like a play?
Well, yeah, and then this when you have line of scrimmage, when you have it's the greatest of all time.
180.
Sorry, crew. Here we're going to do double right gun, 86, all go. I know what that means. 86, all go. And if you're going to snap it, don't do what you did last year. You suddenly hit your leg. All right. And it's going to be on two. On two. Ready?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Break. Okay. I'm over here. Okay.
Set. Red 80. Red 80. Hot. Let's run. Go.
Get it, Zed.
One more.
I can't see a thing.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. That's fun. Dan Marino calling. Marino's got the greatest cadence.
You take a deep breath for a second, at least for me. I just snapped the ball to Dan Marino.
Marino takes the snapping by. Oh, yes, sir.
And many years later, when I came to New York, and obviously 3 was not available because of Mr. Babe Ruth, I immediately thought of wearing number 13 in honor of Dan.
You wore 13 in college as well?
Yes, yeah.
Why 13?
High school, too. Actually, I think I told you this before. My dad used to make me wear, when we had baseball game or baseball team, he coached it, right? And other dads would probably let their kid pick the number first, and he wouldn't. He said, whatever's left over is yours, and it always kept up
being 13. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make 13 my number. And then I'm, picking 13 in high school and then wore it ever since.
Dan Marino is once in a lifetime talent. He had this massive arm, the quickest release.
Plus, Dan was cool. He had the hair, he had the tan. Just always looked like he came off the beach to throw a touchdown.
I was like 16 years old, and I went to see him, believe it or not, at Hooters, where they were hosting the Dan Marino show. Then I told him that I was a quarterback and I was a big fan. And I'll never forget this. He put his hand right here and said, "Son, you're going to be a good one, young man. You're going to be a good one."
Let's go now. Let's go. Let's get some movement on him, right? Get some movement. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's play with some urgency now. A little urgency. Let's go. Move to yellow eye left. Zoom. Pass. 57. Slow. Z. Deep. Lex on 2. Ready?
Marino drops to throw. Looks left. He's got a man open. Jensen, touchdown.
When we had Marino, all the defensive coaches in the National Football League would have patted me on the back if I made him hand off. So we let Marino throw it on every down to get the most out of his ability.
A quarterback's toughness is on display every play. He is a target, standing in the pocket, holding the ball, while staring down the barrel of the oncoming rush.
Danny was a tough kid, blue-collar worker, family. He was a competitor. He wasn't no prima donna.
Did you ever go through concussion protocol?
They didn't have it. No, but I had a couple concussions in my career. Not a lot, a couple.
Yeah.
But they didn't have protocol.
What would they ask you?
If I was okay. That's it. You okay? Go back in.
Did you lie?
There was, no, I didn't lie. I told him there was times when I said, it would be a little dizzy and a little fuzzy, but I said I could play with it, and I did.
Yeah, Paul.
Dan, I did some research, and I found a Miami Dolphins concussion protocol from the 80s. When Dan got hurt, they would look at the backup quarterback and then look at Dan and put him back in the game.
That's a good protocol, actually. I think that's in place today, too.
That's mean spirit. They looked at Don Strock, and they go, "Oh, no, Marino, you're good.
No names.
Go
That's funny.
back in there."
That's funny. Funny.
But who rang your bell, though?
It's hard to. There was Rufus Porter once hit me. He was an outside linebacker for Seattle Seahawks. You remember these things, right? He hit me once and pretty much knocked me out.
Marino going deep, far side, man open, touchdown.
To do it as a quarterback is still more shocking than to do it at any other position.
But these rules now, I brought this up.
The rules it's so different than it was.
I brought this up, I forget, last week, and I said if Marino had these rules, you would have thrown for close to 6,000 yards. I just think your ability you were so far ahead of your time, it was scary.
Between 1984 and 1993, Marino started 145 games. During that time, he engaged in an aerial assault on NFL opponents and the record book. A prototypical pocket passer, Marino's rifle arm diffused even the toughest defenses in the league.
That's the kind of guy you want throwing the ball to you and leading your team.
Throwing into the end zone, Jay McDonald. He made a catch. It's a touchdown, Dolphins.
Dan Marino's awesome. He's just a tremendous quarterback. He was so fun to watch. As a quarterback myself, I think the best arm talent that there ever was. I mean, you can talk about some other guys, but Marino, he was playing in an era where they could just maul the receivers down the field. I mean, you got DBs hanging all over these guys, and just his arm strength with his accuracy, his leadership.
Get a drive going, man. Let's get a drive going and score some damn points.
Here's a guy that had, more passion and more desire than anyone.
The leader in a game is being positive as you can be all the time, and then proving when it's time to prove that you can succeed and win that game, to do it. And they rally around that. They get excited about it.
I'd pick Dan Marino before I pick Brett Favre.
For the last 17 years, Dan Marino has provided countless memories for the city of Miami.
Even in his 17th season, Marino could still command the moment in the game's final minutes.
What a game this has been. Dan lobs one for Gaskin. He's open. He makes the catch at the 15. He's at the 10. Down to the 3-yard line. The shotgun. They're coming with a blitz at him.
Most important position by far is the quarterback position.
Top five, the best 5 players in the history of this league were quarterbacks.
You got the one-on-one, bump and run. You got to win.
Dan Marino had the mental toughness, and he had the physical toughness, and that's what made him one of the great quarterbacks of our time.
And I'm with you on Montana, Tom Brady, Elway, Marino, and I have Brett Favre as my 5th-ranked quarterback of all time. So I have him in my top 5 of all-time NFL players.
And for him to come into the NFL and master the game so quickly, I think merits him much higher ranking than that.
Over the next decade and a half, Marino set for himself the highest standards and expected the same from his teammates.
Oh my God, did Jackson lay out for that football?
His confidence was unbreakable and never wavered when things went wrong.
Catches for 98 yards, second down, and 1 at the 18-yard line. And Marino completes inside the 10, has a first down.
Dan just had that belief in himself that, he was that good.
Do you ever have a quarterback come up to you and say, hey, Marino, throw it at me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what would you do?
Quarterbacks like to talk. I said, I will. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Just stick around. I've always had the attitude just not to quit, and then I could overcome anything in a football situation.
All right, let's make something happen now. Make something happen. Let's go. Play with some urgency now. A little urgency.
If you're down by 21 points, you think you can come back and win that game.
Marino had the 2-minute magic that ranked right with the great Montana and Elway.
The difference that Dan kind of separated himself from everybody else, the fact that his desire and determination to be the best. He wanted to win, and every time he dropped back, it was important to him.
It used to be that, if you had 30 seconds left, it was almost hopeless. I've seen him take a team 80 yards in 16 seconds.
32, 31, 30 seconds to go. I believe Marino is saying I'm going to spike it.
Then I remember some of the classic games against the Jets where they would go back and forth.
Marino's trying to get everybody on the line of scrimmage. Now, he still has 1 timeout. They'll save that for the field goal. It's going to take a miracle. 30 seconds to go. I believe Marino is saying I'm going to spike it.
It didn't matter what the situation is. He wanted to win. He wanted to win bad.
30 seconds to go. I believe Marino is saying I'm going to spike it.
We were never out of a ball game with Dan as our quarterback, and I always felt that confidence, and our players felt that confidence.
Danny had that fire in his eye and his heart each and every time he stepped in the huddle, no matter how much we were down, how difficult the odds looked, that we can get it done.
Marino takes the snap from center. He's looking. He throws. Touchdown, Dolphins! Unbelievable.
30 seconds to go. I believe Marino is saying I'm going to spike it.
Nobody pushed the clock the way he did.
Marino takes the snap from center. He's looking. He throws. Touchdown, Dolphins! Mark Ingram! No, you like that ball. They caught the Jets off guard on that play.
Another spectacular effort by Marino, who fires. Touchdown! You know what the Jets were thinking? He's going to take the ball and throw it into the ground.
Marino takes the snap from center. He's looking. He throws. Touchdown, Dolphins! Yes! I know you like that ball.
Intensity and determination cannot be measured. Marino was never afraid to show his fierce competitiveness.
Who do you think the greatest quarterback ever was?
Dan Marino. Dan Marino is the best pure quarterback to ever play in the National Football League. And I played against 15 Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Back in the day, there was the argument Montana or Marino.
Yeah.
And we all knew the truth that Marino was better.
When people talk about you, they talk about the greatest pure passer in the history of the sport.
What a throw by Marino!
But Montana was playing for Walsh in a better system.
He just played football, almost like it was on the playground. In fact, once he and I were exchanging, I said, well, now what are you looking at when the ball snapped? What are you looking at on your first read? When do you look to your alternate receiver? He says, look, I just look for the open man, and I'm going to hit him.
Touchdown, Dolphins!
Oh, yes!
Marino takes the snap. He's under pressure. Dodges the rush. Now throws deep downfield. Has a man open. It's caught. Irvin Fryer.
He can throw the ball better than anybody.
Marino slogging in the mud. Back to pass. He throws downfield. Has a man open. Mark Ingram has it at the 30. He is gone. Oh, touchdown!
Yes! Danny Marino!
Quickest release, I think, in the history of the National Football League.
He got rid of the football so fast.
Then when he decided what to do with the football, it didn't take long for the football to get from here to where he wanted it to go.
There's
There's one thing I've always said is you can't defend a perfect throw. Guys can have great coverage, but if you make a perfect throw, it doesn't matter.
Mr. Marino,
yes, sir.
I've got to ask you this question.
My
partner and I have gone back and forth all year long about Aaron bleepin' Rodgers. He says that Aaron Rodgers is historically great, that he can make throws no human has ever thought about making. And I always interrupt him and say, time out. Dan Marino was the greatest thrower of the football ever. Can you help me? Can
Yes.
you help make my case?
I don't disagree with you.
Perfectly thrown pass by Dan Marino.
There's only about 2 or 3 people I've ever been around. Dan was one, and Terry Bradshaw was one. That when they threw the ball, it whistled.
Marino will throw deep for Duper.
And it looks like it's in jeopardy here in the 3rd straight week. Wide open. That's Duper. That's a Miami touchdown, I think. It is.
Flea flicker back to Marino. Has a man running free. If he hits him, it's Duper. It'll be 6. Mark Duper, 69 yards. Touchdown. Marino drills this one on the break. It is there. Touchdown. Punt. Miami first down from their 31. Marino in trouble, able to get it away. Sideline. Mark Duper.
Steps out to the right side, throws into the end zone, and it is caught. It's a touchdown. Give Marino the ball with under 2 minutes to go, and let's see if he can win one that way.
A few years ago, they beat us in a very difficult playoff game in Miami. I go in to see Dan and congratulate him after the game, and I've never seen a player with so many scars: shoulders, knees, ankles, the Achilles.
Everybody up on the front line for Kansas City. And Marino's going to go to the air, backpedaling and looking and throwing for the touchdown to Ronnie Williams.
And Vaughn Booker is all over Dan Marino. And Dan Marino makes him miss.
And I'm looking at this guy, and I said, how could this guy possibly beat us?
Dan looks, throws into the end zone. It is caught. It is a
touchdown. It was Marino's 36th fourth-quarter comeback of his career.
He couldn't run from here to that wall in 20 seconds. But you could not touch the guy. Because we got after quarterbacks. We could never hit him.
I think my movement in the pocket, I've always thought that I was very good at that, and being able to create within a small space, make people miss, and still be able to get off a good throw and make plays. And I think a lot of times people didn't give me a lot of credit for that.
And he knew where everybody was coming from.
Marino one time, I hit him low one time, got a flag, and his mom called me the next day, and I was like, you can't have your mom call me, man, and say, I thought you and Danny were friends. Yeah.
The culmination of this remarkable comeback came on a 4th down and 6, late in the 4th quarter.
Marino throws deep downfield. It is caught by Bryant.
Been playing in place of Ricky Reynolds at the left corner through much of the second half. Marino in the flat to Kirby. Marino out of the gun. He's been deadly today. Open man. Touchdown. Irving Bryant.
It is caught by Bryant. Yes! That's a 4th and 5.
I've always had the attitude just not to quit.
Marino saved the best for last. Needing a strong finish to clinch home field advantage, Marino threw 4 touchdown passes in each of his last 4 games.
And the only reason he could do that is because of the size of his heart.
They say football is all about the thumper, baby. And he's got one as big as a football. A flame burns inside that man, Dan Marino.
And then over time, those are compounding advantages. When you play in a better system for a better coach, you wind up actually a better player. It's like two kids. They're equally bright. One goes to Harvard, one goes to community college. When they're graduating, guess what? The kid who went to Harvard, he benefited from the coaching. You know, same thing with Montana back in the day. Marino with the numbers, Montana with the championships.
Are you crazy? He never won a Super Bowl, so he cannot be the best.
Miami would lose Super Bowl 19 to the 49ers, the only Super Bowl appearance of Marino's career.
He has that magical MVP year, and we go to the Super Bowl, and I thought we were going to go every other year.
Young Dan Marino, but his first Super Bowl will be a loss.
No doubt in my mind after that game, I felt I would be back next year, the year after, and be in a lot of Super Bowls. I think we took it for granted a little bit that we would definitely be back. 3-4 years after that time, I started to realize this might be a little tougher than I thought.
That's one feeling I don't have. What is it like to walk off the field and win that Super Bowl? I have no regrets, but that's the one thing that I never accomplished.
Marino would continue to break records, but would never return to the Super Bowl.
How many times did you rewatch your Super Bowl?
I never watched it.
Once it's done, it's done.
When it was done, I never went back to watch that Super Bowl. I haven't watched it.
Not even curious of.
Sometimes I'm curious to look at, but now it doesn't matter. So I don't. But I didn't. Right after that, I kind of put in my mind, I'm just going to go forward and not worry about what happened in that game. So
it'd be cool to have you and Montana watch it together.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool for him. I mean, yeah. Come on, Dan. That's not right.
Well, no, it'd be cool to just see that honest reaction there. I know how it ends, Dan.
Yeah,
I do.
So do I.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It doesn't end well. I understand that, but it would be cool to see that.
Yeah. Okay.
3-4 years after that time, we weren't that good of a football team. You know, I started to realize this might be a little tougher than I thought.
I mean, that's a challenge for me, and it makes it exciting. It makes that's what makes it fun, I think.
Most great quarterbacks are judged on winning a championship or not. Whether it's fair or not, that's another conversation. It's funny because football is a team sport, but when you're the quarterback, they almost treat you like an individual sport, like tennis or golf.
So, is it his fault that the other 21 players on the roster for most of his career sucked?
He had nothing on his team.
Let's go, man. Give me some time to throw a 5-yard out, a 10-yard out.
He had no running game. He had no tight end. He had no defense.
I mean, totally blame him for Tom Olivadotti running the defense for 8 years.
I've always resented the Dolphins for never giving you a defense ever in your career, as far as I'm concerned.
We had some good ones.
Yeah, I don't recall, Dan. I don't recall on the defensive side of the ball.
Those first 10 years, the Dolphins' offense under Marino was one of the best in NFL history, but their defense was also one of the worst.
But when I sat down to talk with him about his career, one burning question still needed to be answered.
What goes through your mind when Shannon Sharpe starts ripping quarterbacks who don't have Super Bowl rings, and there you are on the set?
I mean, he Shannon sometimes gets a little, crazy, but what goes through my mind? I don't think he was ripping me personally. He what did he say exactly?
At the end of the day, can you win? Look at his record. Look at his resume.
He was just saying you got to win. You got to win Super Bowl rings. That's what it's all about. To be a great quarterback, you got to. Fritzy.
Well, that's wrong.
Danny, listen to Fritzy. He does a Shannon Sharpe impersonation. How would Shannon have done that, Fritzy?
There's been a lot of great quarterbacks in this game. Dan Marino, John Elway, et cetera, Joe Montana. For me, it's all about the rings. The more rings, the better you are. If you don't have any Super Bowl rings, you're just not quite as good as you think you are.
That's a good imitation.
Well, he's done it to Shannon.
I like the Denver Broncos to win 27-23. And by the way, I know Dan Marino's upset with me for something I said on the NFL Today on CBS. But he's got to find a way to get a couple of rings. If you don't get a couple of rings, buy them on eBay, auction, whatever you got to do. You are not one of the all-time greats unless you got some rings on your finger.
Dan, can I clear this up?
No quarterback, not Tom Brady, not Joe Montana, was going to win a Super Bowl with those defenses he had to play with in Miami.
Dan Marino must have a fishbowl of indigestion trapped in his chest when he stops and thinks, wait,
Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson have Super Bowl rings and I don't?
I said because there are guys that, hey, Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson, there are guys that won Super Bowl rings. That's not great players. Dan didn't win one, but he's a great player.
You need to shut the fuck up.
You know, if I played on some of the teams he played on, I'd have won Super Bowls too.
Pete Stoyanovich missing that kick against San Diego.
Chargers 22, Dolphins 21. For 17 seasons, Marino was the franchise for the Miami Dolphins.
What Hall of Famers played with Marino in Miami?
Not even one.
Lord,
and I'm telling you, in the same sample size.
You do this with a straight face.
You're
It's
right,
unbelievable. Go ahead. Go ahead.
In the same sample size. Dan Marino year one. Yep. Dak Prescott year one. You know who's winning? Dak Prescott. And that's beside the fact that Troy Aikman is right, and Max points it out. He's talking about things beyond stats. He's talking about things beyond QBR.
I don't know
what
a leader he is as well. Will, Christopher Reeves, Clark Kent. I don't know what the hell to talk to you today. Here's the deal. This is the thing that kills me about you. I said 1983, but I didn't stop there. I talked about Super Duper and Mark Clayton. I didn't stop there. I talked about no running game. I talked about a suspect offensive line. I talked about I'm not scrambling. I'm staying right on point. You know why, Will? Especially you, because you're a pro at doing this. You're not as gifted as me, but you're a pro at doing this. You'll bring up all the other intangibles. I recall you talking about Dallas's defense.
Oh,
you ain't gonna talk about Miami's defense back then, are you? I recall you talking about Dallas's running game. You ain't gonna talk about Miami's running game back then, did you?
The Miami Dolphins had Dan Marino. That was it.
Do me a favor, look at how far down the list the guy in second was. Compare that. Then do me a favor and shut up.
When I think about Dan, I think a lot of people think about Dan as they think about all the great numbers that he put up.
From 1984 to 1993, Marino played in 145 consecutive games, something no other NFL quarterback has ever done.
Marino launched a 17-year assault on the NFL record book that didn't cease until every meaningful mark was hit.
And Marino becomes the all-time leader in pass completions in NFL history, and before this season is over, he will own every record known to man.
Dan Marino rewrote almost every passing record in the book.
When Dan Marino retired in 1999, he held every meaningful career record for a quarterback. Most passing yards, completions, and touchdowns.
He has the granddaddy of them all now. Most touchdown passes ever.
420 touchdowns, both NFL records. He remains the all-time leader in pass attempts and completions, and is the only player to throw for 5,000 yards in a single season, by virtue of passing feats never before seen in the NFL.
You know, you're proud of all the things that you've accomplished. You know, throwing the touchdowns and the yards and completions, that's all pretty special to me.
And Dan Marino, with that touchdown, he has the granddaddy of them all now. Most touchdown passes ever. Dan Marino has now thrown for more yards than anyone else. More touchdowns than any other man in National Football League history.
In his 17-year career, Marino threw for 61,361 yards, nearly 35 miles.
The numbers that he put up compared to anybody else, it's pretty unbelievable.
When I look back on it, it was great. At the time, we were just having fun and playing football.
Nothing safe with Dan Marino on the other sideline.
How about give Marino credit for taking incredibly crappy supporting casts to the playoffs all those years?
I stayed away from my first few years, you know what I mean? I tried to avoid him as much as I could because I see him yell at everybody, coaches, players, trainers, whatever.
He was the first to criticize his teammates after a poor play, but also the first to congratulate after a good one.
One time, Duper, I mean, he didn't dive for a ball in the end zone. He could have caught it for a touchdown.
But it just didn't come flat. But don't stop. Just stop.
It was a little out in front of him, and I said, why didn't you dive? He says, well, you're making all the money. Why didn't you hit me in the chest? You know, and it just pissed him off. Then we had a little argument. And,
there wasn't a negative feeling when Dan would, yell at someone. They understand that Dan on Sunday was a very emotional, high-strung guy and fierce competitor, wanted to win at all costs. And I think players accepted that.
Over the next decade and a half, Marino set for himself the highest standards and expected the same from his teammates.
Oh my God, did Jackson lay out for that football?
His confidence was unbreakable and never wavered when things went wrong.
We're getting our ass kicked in the running game on first and second down. We got to get better plays on first down. Come on now, let's quit feeling sorry for ourselves, baby. Let's do something.
Dan Marino and Mark Clayton, but he also had Mark Duper.
Duper and Clayton, I mean, they're somewhat underrated compared to, a lot of the great players of all time, at that position, because they were special. And I had them guys for 10 years, together, one on one side, one on the other.
There are two players in particular that I want to thank that has made a special impact on my career. Mark Duper.
Out of the shotgun. Marino throwing for Duper.
It's wobbly and all alone. It's Mark Duper. Duper blazing down the sideline.
Marino has dime. He goes deep. Has Duper. Duper has it. 80 yards.
Marino with time. Looks for the end zone.
Hey, loser! Why don't you learn how to drive, pal? Huh? Woo! Oh, you want to play, huh? Woo!
Woo! 450 yards passing for Marino. Looking for a touchdown. He's got it to Duper. Going deep. There's Duper. Marino. Wide open is Duper. Touchdown. Going to Duper. Touchdown. Going deep and open. Touchdown, Mark Duper. Duper has returned, and he is super.
And Mark Clayton.
Cowboys show blitz. Here is Marino. Quick drop, throws for the sideline. Caught. This may go 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Miami. Dolphins ball their first possession. Marino. Look at Mark Clayton make the catch.
And the one thing I remember most about Duper and Clayton is their competitive spirit and their attitude that they were the best.
He made Duper and Clayton. He made those guys.
No Super Bowl cannot be number one.
You are an idiot.
Last quick question, a tougher question. Every time your name comes up as top 5 all-time quarterback, you hear, yeah, but he didn't win a Super Bowl. Does that still haunt you, or how do you feel about it at this stage of your life?
I don't mind talking about it. Yes, it doesn't haunt me, but it's a feeling that I wanted to have. And I've felt every other feeling you could have as a professional football player, Hall of Fame, breaking records, MVP, all that stuff, but I never knew what it felt like to walk off the field the Sunday night of the Super Bowl and say I was a champion. And I do think about that. There's no doubt about it, but can't do anything about it now.
Do you feel like it should be a blight on your resume or tarnish your resume because you didn't close the deal?
No.
I've always considered you one of the greatest quarterbacks that I've ever seen. I've always considered you a champion.
Too many people, I think, will remember him as, quote, a numbers guy. He wanted to be known as a winner. Second winningest quarterback of all time, didn't win the big game. And I think that's what really will stick in Marino's craw.
I'm the most loyal Dan Marino fan you're ever going to meet, so it doesn't take anything away from it.
See, that's the thing about Danny. Danny would give up all that stuff for wins and a Super Bowl ring. He's all about winning. All the records are, that's fine and dandy. It looks good on his mantle with all the footballs and stuff. But his whole thing is he wants to win.
Marino throws deep downfield. It is caught by Fryer. Touchdown! That's on 4th and 5.
I would say Dan Marino isn't just in the top 10 when it comes to quarterbacks. I'd say he's in the top 10 when it comes to actors, and I'm talking about all time.
Earlier we had Howie Long here. If I had to put you up against Howie Long in terms of acting, in terms of movies, Dan, filmography versus filmography. Rate what you've got going on.
I have a lot of respect for Howie, yes, but I'm going to say I'm a better actor.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I buy isotoners for the big guys and the super fast little guys and everyone in between because isotoners fit them all. I love being a superstar quarterback.
Jerry, look, unbelievable.
Fans, the recognition. This is too good to be true. Incredible. The hero worship.
Excuse me, aren't you eating a McDonald's Quarter Pounder Club? I knew it, Jerry.
See ya. The glory.
It's McDonald's Taste of the Month, the Quarter Pounder Club.
Does that guy look familiar to you? Oh, sure, that's the guy from the glove commercial.
Wow.
Breaded wings? You're blowing it, bro.
Alexa, how many championships has Dan Marino won?
Dan Marino has won 0 championships.
Alexa, how many Oscars has Alec Baldwin won?
Alec Baldwin has won 0.
Alexa, stop. Well played, Marino.
Shame on you!
This man is a national treasure.
Jason, it's all right.
No, it's not all right. I will sack this man so hard for you.
No, you won't.
Oh, shit, Dan Marino. What's up, man? Back up, Dan. Hey, you're the truth.
Whatever you need, officers.
Hey, Marcus, that's Dan Marino.
Hey!
Hey, Dan, you still got that quick release?
Definitely.
Yeah?
What kind of question is that?
Nah, I'm just asking, man. You want to try some quick release questions?
You must be bored, but go ahead.
Here we go. Laces in or out?
Oh, laces are definitely out.
Yeah,
I get that a lot, too.
Favorite post-game meal?
Italian food, definitely.
Yeah, I like to have some a Cuban sandwich like after playing Monopoly.
What games have you played in? Probably none.
All right, shotgun or in the pocket?
What kind of question? They're both in the pocket.
Are they?
Yeah. So
well,
it's
don't
either under
me.
center, or get it right if you're going to get it. It's either under center or in the shotgun. So if it's under center, I'd enjoyed being under the center, but shotgun is it. Okay. So you got to get it right. Who wrote that one?
I'm sorry, Dan Marino. Are you listening?
So this Christmas, take care of the hands that take care of you with isotoner gloves.
Way to go, Dan.
Thanks a lot.
Isotoners in up north, yeah, I did the commercials. But that's, I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty good marketing. A guy from Miami selling gloves.
Look at you, man. That's like selling
isotoners.
Yeah, that's right.
Take care of the hands and take care of you.
Yeah, you're selling sunblock up in Alaska or something like that.
Exactly.
I like it.
Marino usually wasn't as vocal off the field with the media.
Now, I heard a story by some reporter here that said that when they first met you, you shook his hand, you said, I'm glad to meet you, I know you're a reporter, but you're not going to get from me.
Do you think you could have competed against the people that are playing in the game today?
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any issue for me to play the way the rules are now.
How many touchdowns do you think you would throw in today's at 23 years of age with that group? Be honest.
Yeah, we probably over 50.
Matt Ryan, who's very talented. It's not a shot at Matt Ryan. Maybe he will get the MVP this year, but not Dan Marino talent. You, along with Aaron Rodgers, you're just talking about the two best I've ever seen, independent of coach and scheme and offensive line and running. It's you or Aaron Rodgers. And
thank you.
And it happened for you getting to the Super Bowl. I think most people from that era have the same feeling. Getting to the Super Bowl early in your career. There's no way to know that would be something that kind of hung on you, not winning a Super Bowl. But Matt Ryan's been around for a while and has heard that he can't win in the playoffs and everything. Do you think that is an advantage for him, serving as extra motivation, or is that more pressure in this game for him?
You know, I think it's a little pressure because he's the first time being there. When I went, I was very young. I was 23 years old, still the youngest guy to start in a Super Bowl, so that's been a long time. And I felt like I was going to be back again, no problem. I'm going to win a couple, a couple more, and for him, he hasn't been there yet. He's getting a little older. Yeah, there is going to be some pressure on him. That's why the key, you mentioned coming out and playing good early.
Yeah.
You know, for him, getting that confidence and playing good early because you're going to have to match the Patriots. So there is pressure on him to win.
Funny thing happened, though. Brady
who once upon a time only had the Montana argument over Peyton, now also has the Marino argument.
Is he better than you?
I'm going to say no one's better than me.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell.
They're all great. I mean, if you talk about Peyton and Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Montana, Elway, all those guys. I mean, for me, too, it's just to be mentioned with those guys is pretty special.
But you never sit around and talk about memories when you're with Montana or Elway? There's no game that comes up? Or
No, not a lot of football talk. Some, but not a lot.
What do you talk about?
Just family, whatever it may be.
Golf, anything?
Yeah, some golf, wine. There you go. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, I always wanted your autograph.
Yeah.
No, you were.
He was a brash, young, handsome guy from Pittsburgh, and he developed into a pillar in our community of doing things the way that they should be done.
Come on. Tell me I ain't drink.
Hey, guys. Coach, I got a surprise for you.
Dan Marino, huh?
Coach, you have room for one of these? Ford will surprise you.
One of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me, the day Dan tied the NFL record for touchdown passes. He had that game jersey framed, and he sent it to me.
Fans here recognize Dan Marino's career accomplishment. What a joy it has been to watch that man play football.
I don't think you can point to somebody and say you're going to be a leader. You're born with that. Dan Marino was born a leader.
Dan Marino was a guy that just could throw it better than anybody else, quicker than anybody, better than anybody.
Although he was never crowned a champion, I'll always remember Dan Marino as one of football's true treasures. No player ever displayed a greater will to win. And it's that passion he showed for the game that we'll all miss.
He's great. I wish I could get another 10 years of watching Dan Marino play football. And since he retired, I've never really gone back or watched Dolphins.
Dan Marino collected more honors than any quarterback in history.
It's hard. It's like having to watch the Orioles without Cal Ripken.
What a joy it has been to watch that man play football.
When he retired, he held every significant NFL passing record. Most completions, most passing yards, and most touchdown passes.
You talk about championship courage. You talk about a will to win. A flame burns inside that man, Dan Marino.
I've always been asked the question, did it bother me that 26 teams passed on me in the first round? And I would always answer no. Well, I lied. Today, I want to thank those 26 teams for passing on me. You gave me an opportunity. You gave me an opportunity to play for one of the greatest franchises in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dolphin fans, for coming. I'll remember this day the rest of my life. Claire, kids, mom, dad, thank you.